Welcome to the Horsemanship Remark Show. I was waiting for Michael, but he's a little bit behind.
Hola. I can't hear you. See if it's volume. Nope, that's not the problem. There's a microphone.
Yes. All right. So we better say good morning, everybody.
Welcome to the Horsemanship Remark Show.
Welcome to the Horsemanship Remark Show.
Intonation. I gotta practice this week.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Horsemanship Remark Show. There you go.
Oh, how is everybody this morning? Susan, good morning. Oh my gosh, you still have snow, huh? Oh,
That'd be rough right now. It just feels so good to have. So funny story. I don't know why I'm sharing embarrassing things right off the bat. So yesterday, or not yesterday, last week I had a boot camp. Tom and Michelle were gone for like family, like the whole family went down to Savannah, stayed in a deal right on the river. Any case, we had the cows the week before, and Tom and I were going to get together and work the cows. So we were kind of coordinating when he could do that before they left, right? So it's like we were going to on Tuesday, but then we couldn't because he was leaving. And so then this Monday, I saw Tom and Michelle. I'm like, oh yeah, I should say hi to him before they leave, or wish them a good trip before they leave, right? But I was busy. And then Tuesday, I saw Michelle. I'm like, I thought you guys were leaving, and she's like, we just got back. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so busy, I didn't even realize you guys were gone. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, that's why Mike was feeding Boxer and I didn't see them for almost a week while they were gone, but I was so busy, I did not even realize that time had elapsed. I was still waiting for them to leave, and here they are back already. Like, oh my gosh, must have been a busy week.
that's funny.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, time, the paradox of time, right? Let's say good morning. Michelle, good morning. So fun to see everybody on the Heart and Soul the other day. Can't believe
Yeah.
Mike was obviously busy.
You'll have to summarize.
It was really fun. Diane, she says, good morning, good morning. Looking forward to seeing Michael and the crew this weekend. Yay. Sarah, good morning. Corey, good morning. Katie, good morning. Everybody's
Wendy
here.
Morgan.
Yeah, Wendy Morgan. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Katie Wendy Morgan. Someday we'll have to name a horse that.
Katie
You want
Wendy.
an embarrassing
Did you,
story?
did you ever hear my tagline for their business? They were trying to find. I was up their place last summer, and on the fridge they had ideas for business names. I said, "Oh, that's easy. Two handy kids and a kind of handy mom. Like that's it right there." So
That's
that's my
funny.
joke with Katie.
Yeah, yeah.
You're the kind of handy mom.
I think she's getting really handy.
She's pretty handy.
hmm
I just give her crap all the time.
I was putting plugs in for the girls for colt starting at Bucks. So hopefully we'll work on that. Gabrielle, good morning. I sent you a message on Horsemanship Insider, so hopefully it should be simple to get that organized. Steph, good morning. Um,
Morning.
do you guys want to hear my embarrassing story?
Sure.
Was leaving a
Katie,
list.
Katie likes your comments better than mine. It's all in love, Katie. Come on.
I think we could have it both. It could be Katie Wendy Morgan. Two handy girls and a kind of handy mom, you know.
Yeah,
Emily, good morning. Okay, you guys, I was leaving a listing yesterday from putting a lockbox on. I was driving my truck because I had horse errands to do at the end of the day. My beautiful, gorgeous white truck that I love, that I've waited so long to get. So I turned right out of the driveway, and it was kind of like a little bit of a hill. And then I was turning right. All of a sudden, I hear this huge crash and screeching. And I'm like, anyway, long story short, there was one of those mailboxes there, and metal mailboxes. And I dug it into the right hand side of my truck, all the way down my truck.
Oh, jeez.
And I broke the mailbox is fine.
I like how you said there was one of those mailboxes there, as if mailboxes were sort of rare. Like, you know those mailboxes, guys? There was one of those right there.
Like metal locking kind that is
Yeah,
built
I get what you're.
up
Yeah,
safe.
yeah. They look like. Yeah.
So my 1-ton truck folded like a house of, it didn't really, but that's, I just couldn't, so my truck is ruined.
Where did you first make impact? Like, is it the doors or just the box?
Oh, that's both doors.
Are you kidding me?
Both doors.
Use your mirrors. Although the trucks are so freaking big, you can't even see what's around you.
That's the
It's
thing. It's
annoying. I
extra,
hate it.
mine is extra high. And the combination of the hill that,
Hmm.
like I just did, and it's kind of a gravel road, so you're not trying to go over the other anyway.
Wow. You gotta send me a picture of that.
Oh,
Because I can imagine that thing just like sliced into there.
it did. It totally did. And so then I get up. This is, I mean, the client's property is either one of the realtor stories you tell later. Um, but yeah, Corey, it doesn't look as bad in pictures as it really is, but it's really bad. And again, so I get out, I pick up this mailbox, which is 100% unharmed. And
But on the ground.
yes, but on the ground,
Okay.
guess what broke?
The
The
concrete?
post. The post.
Is it a wooden post?
A 6x6 wooden post snapped off. It's probably a little bit rotted at the bottom, but anyway. So if any of you guys know a handyman in the Dallas area today, that's one of the things I have to do after the show, because I need to get this mailbox put back up. So basically the 6x6 needs to be, you know, dug out, put a new one, screw the one in the top. So I'm ready to pay good money for that today. Anyway,
I was picturing more solid than a wood post, but the one I was picturing concreted, bolted in, welded joints on a. I guess what would it be? Probably a steel or yeah.
yeah. So I
Any
swung
case, sounds pretty sturdy either way.
I swung by the body shop on the way to my next appointment. I walk in there with my head hanging. And the girls are like, "What's up?" And I told them, and she goes, "You would be surprised how often we see this."
Those damn sneaky mailboxes get everybody.
Oh my gosh. So, anyways, there's that. Oh, that's my embarrassing story. You know, anyway, nobody was hurt. I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't get hurt, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, oh, what a bummer. And my truck, oh my gosh. Anyways, we'll get it fixed up. Okay, so what's on your mind? What's on all you guys' mind? I'm always interested to hear. I have a few things. And if it who got a chance to see the little Rosie video, so Michael, check this out. So since I'm working at home now, I mean, the horses at home, and kind of everybody's rolling through the round pen right now. I have ponies, so it's actually plenty of space, but also it's just kind of easy to set up my station and burn through everybody. And so I'm just kind of gonna roll the camera at times and talk to the camera. And for the pathfinders, it's like whatever it is, it kind of is. And I watched the video, basically just groundwork with I mean just beginning groundwork, but to me, like, I watched it back and it's super valuable to me. So I'm thinking it's going to be valuable to some of you. It's funny because I was like, who should I give a shout out to? And I started naming names. Corey, I forgot you. I should have mentioned, and then I said, not Michael. Thinking that you wouldn't have time to watch it. But I just do my best. It's going to be a little grainy when you pinch to zoom. So, but I think overall, just judging from myself, I do think that there's some value in that. And then, of course, doing a little video for to clarify some of the safety checklist. Did you get a chance to read the safety checklist? One of these days, we should talk about that because I was kind of interested to see whether you felt like it was kind of comprehensive enough, or some things needed to be edited, or some things needed to be added. Did you look at all? No.
So, for the first time ever in however many years we've been doing this, I brought a notepad to jot things down. I was planning, because you've been so tardy numerous weeks, I was planning to go back and glance at it and write a couple things down. Because, yes, I did look at it. Remembering what I thought when I read it, another story altogether. I think I do remember some of it, but I was going to look at it and jot a couple things down. Didn't have time to do that because you were less tardy today than you have been. Um, no, I actually told Gabrielle and Sarah yesterday. I looked at that, just a quick read through. I'm like, you got to look at that. There was some interesting pieces there. I liked that it was not just check this, but you had like two or three things that were like, if you don't have this, beware, right? Like these are critical. And then, like, as I'm working with horses or thinking about, frankly, clinics and boot camps and, buck clinics where it's like, this is a horsemanship class. You show up and you're kind of on your horse. And there's so many times where I'm like, you've been riding your horse. This is a horsemanship class. I'm not going to say show up on the end of a lead rope and let's now spend our whole horsemanship class trying to get that whole checklist done. We start from where you are. Um, Now, if we're in this for the long haul and you're in the groundwork and your horse is a disaster and you're completely bought in, well, then we can have conversations about how prepared or not your horse is. But a lot of times, I'm kind of getting off here, but you go into the class and you just start where people are and let discoveries happen.
Mhm.
Like, okay, here's what's struggling, and I kind of bide my time to interject something, plant a seed, let them come to the question. With limited amount of time, you don't let them sit and be stuck in it forever, but you can kind of feel for the when the questions are starting to form and they're ready to. I don't know. It's its own art. Any case, I was thinking about that because I had a lesson yesterday that was not in the saddle, but it was that same feeling out. Okay, this person has a bunch going, and or some stuff going, but there's clearly holes and it's different approaches than I would use. But if I just go in there and say do this, do that, it's just not going to be well received. So I was thinking about all that, and I had coffee this morning, so I might be talking faster. I don't normally have coffee.
Fine,
Um,
coffee.
was that? So I lost my train of thought now. So I was just thinking about the list and going, how restrictive might that list be
Mhm.
if you were just strictly stuck to it? And yet, if we're talking about the horse being in the rectangle, you being safe on the horse, and still no guarantees, even with all that checklist and being aware of all those things, still no guarantees. But if you want to stack the deck in your favor, right? So I mean, there's a lot of nuance to it in terms of getting all the groundwork, all the preparation to where it's just solid is not something you can just, well, I'm never getting on my horse until my horse is just 100% like up to Emma's standard at this or Buck standard. It's like, well, that might take you a while to develop that skill. And then you're still calculating, well, how safe is my horse? So if I've been riding it for 3 years, you can probably pile on and still do some things, but knowing you got some things to go back to. Um, but in any case, the things the addition that I thought was interesting was the two items at the end. Well, there's a couple that were bonus items, I think. Like if these are good, that's even better. But then there were also
Come
an
on.
item or two. Go ahead.
Oh, I have it on my iPad. I can get it in just a second.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. Continue. Continue. The bonus items, yes. Uh-huh. And
Well, there were the bonus items. Which were the bonus items? Do you remember?
no, I don't. Let me
Okay.
grab my iPad. Hang on.
So they're bonus items, but I believe this is where it would have been nice to look and write it down or print it out. Before the bonus items, there were a couple of like, watch out for these buggers. They are more critical than just generally the list. And I was thinking about those things going, they are more critical, like in terms of true safety. They're the ones that'll bite you in the butt because you don't realize how poor your horse is at it. But they are some of the, I mean,
Easy.
they're the sneaky ones, right?
Yeah, and some are just easy to get.
Yeah, mindless circles is one Sarah just mentioned, and that's a that's an easy one to end up with when you're working on horsemanship because you kind of fall into patterns of
Are you
you
good
know,
with the
working
dispatch?
on.
Like here, this is the dispatch, and then like you tap into the safety checklist here, and then you get the checklist. So I just wanted you guys to see. Go ahead, continue.
Anyway, the mindless circles is like, well, you're working on getting a better circle and you're working on kind of repeating a number of the things over and over. And so it's kind of the age old, well, you got to improve on those. But if your horse is, doing a very good job on that, you don't want to practice for yourself to the point of nitpicking or thinking so much that you don't have presence or you don't have time. And then it actually gets worse rather than better. And now the horse was doing a pretty nice circle, but you've been working it so long it becomes a mindless circle. But um, that's everyone has to kind of go through that and strike that balance as they're working on it. But yeah, mindless circles was one of them. Um, the leading up, I think, is you know you and I both like came on that a little later, where it's like, and I still sometimes am like, how is this so? And we've had the conversation on the show. Like, how is this so broad reaching in its positive effects? Um, but that's one that's undervalued. And the linking to the trailer, the lesson I had yesterday that was not horseback was with the trailer loading. And it was just like instantly, your horse doesn't lead up. This is going to like, but I can't just start there, right? Like, I had to build some rapport. I'd never met this person before. She was clearly nervous, kind of wanted to get to a lot of things. And I'm like, you're very optimistic about your goals. And at one point, she's like, I just don't want to waste my whole lesson on trailer loading. I'm like, well, we can go do other things, but like, you just told me you kind of got lucky that your horse got in the trailer to get here. So let's maybe work on this because I have to leave right at 3 o'clock. Um, so we ended up spending the whole time in the, but it was like, there's no lead up here. Right?
Hmm.
So
Was it?
riding checklist or trailer loading,
Yeah,
it's a pretty
and
big haul.
kind of important. Julie, good morning. Lisa, good morning.
And
Sarah.
yet that's one of the things that was interesting that I've been thinking on since then is how much she was able to get done without that. And we didn't fix that yesterday. I didn't even bring that up, right? Like that was a bigger thing to fix. There were so many doors I had to ease open and like build rapport and get small wins and like gradually let her come up to shutting a door because she was kind of like tapping the door shut and letting the horse push on it. And I couldn't say, slam the door in his dang face and say that door is shut. It wouldn't have been well received. Um, any case, because he was wanting to turn around, he was wanting to back up, and she was just kind of letting those things happen. Um, but in any case, it was kind of impressive how much she got accomplished without having any lead up on him. And it was
Well,
all driving in, which is good. I mean, like,
mhm.
you want to be able to send them in, which she could. Um, and thankfully she'd done enough work getting him confident in the trailer that when he'd started to back up, even though she was reticent to do so, I was like, give him a little bit more of a tap and say that door is closed. Like, try to stay there. And he was right on it. Got a little worried, a little bit like, oh, I don't know. But she crept up on it, and
And you're
so
talking about doors in the rectangle, just to be clear.
doors of, yes, doors of the rectangle, not doors of the trailer, right? So he'd go in the trailer, and part of her building his confidence going into the trailer was letting him turn around and letting him back out, which, like I said, like, she gained ground doing that, but she was stuck in, how do I keep him in the trailer, because she wasn't effective at closing those doors enough physically that mentally he decided those doors maybe were shut. They weren't flung wide open and he can leave whenever. To turn to the left and kind of swing around in the trailer or to back up. So anyway, we didn't even address leading up, but the moment I walked over there and was like, this one
It's
really
not
doesn't lead
fair.
up. Not on the rate, not on the radar.
Well, you talk
But
about getting lots accomplished. You think about, I mean, I didn't, the leading up thing was just not.
mhm.
So I think of all the years. Um,
And what we accomplished without
mhm.
understanding the importance of it. Yeah.
Only thing that I would say, um, you know, practicing the stick to me idea.
Hmm.
Oh, but there's that is an element I think that can a little bit bridge the gap, sort of. There's a few little elements in there that have to do with really making an upward transition, I think, from either backup to really like trotting out, that I do think is a push from the hind legs,
Hmm.
still not what we're talking about all the
Well,
way, so
and
not
I think
all.
that's why that one is a little sneaky, because you can accomplish it through easier means that the horse is less apt to push back on, right? You literally cannot pull the horse if they're not moving their own body. You can't drive them without them moving their own body either, but you're less apt to run into a wall of inability to move the horse if you're driving them than if you're drawing or pulling on them and they're not apt to go. I mean, put a trailer in front of a horse and test the two, and one's gonna be easier than the other. So it's easy to have that spot and not realize it's even there or realize its importance. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
the other thing that, because I just like, while I was waiting for a little bit more of an open door and some questions to form, some receptiveness to my making direct suggestions. We were probably three-quarters of the way through a lesson, and I was like, "How about we shut that door behind the horse?" The door in the rectangle. Because anytime he'd back up, her approach was he'd back up, she'd send him backward. Not thankfully with you know I don't know if I'd say feel, but not just ramming him backward or punishing him and going backward. Just like, okay, you want to go backward, and just backing him up, and she would back she didn't realize what she was doing. She would back until he smoothed out and basically engaged the hocks before she'd say, "All right, now let's go forward." So whether she realized it or not, she was backing. I think she maybe noticed, you could tell it smoothed out, or it was just dumb luck. That's when she released most of the time. But she'd back him up, and just carrot stick was under his chest and just kind of tapping the ground and tapping him, and the lead rope's going the whole time. And he's not particularly focused on her, but he was backing up, and it'd be a little rushed maybe at first, or a little disjointed, and then it would just kind of find a rhythm, and he'd go, and she'd pause and then send him forward. But without blocking the back door, without leading up, using a strategy that can often lead people in making a mess of things, she was surprisingly um, effective at using it. Again, I don't know how much she realized what exactly she was getting done with that
Mhm.
backing up that made it effective. But she was stuck and would have continued to be stuck, in my opinion, had she not had me gently encourage, how about we try to shut that door? And I think she was afraid to do so because anytime she had, again, shutting the door of the rectangle, don't back up, little drive from behind, anytime she had, it would just speed him up. And, then she'd probably get worried, emotional. Anyway, it worked out really well because she had got him confident enough, and he was, when she said, "Come off the back of the rectangle and step forward," he was quite good at that, even though he wasn't good at leading up. So he was able to, with minimal pressure, go, "Oh, I guess I will go forward." Now, if he was crossing the threshold, he would be like, "Oh, a little panic," and speed up, backing up. But he didn't go very far back before he's like, "Oh," and pop back in. And there was a little bit of a spark to it because he's like, "Oh," even though she was doing very little. And then he got a little worried. And I'm like, he's getting a little worried. That's fine. Don't panic on that. He's just going, okay, now I have to try to stay in here. Just encourage him when he's in here. And she just had a baby not too long ago. I'm like, be delighted with him like you are with your little one. Like when he gets in here, it's not just, there's no pressure now. I'm leaving you alone. Like you have to help him feel like you're happy and you're together, and like all the intangibles that, if you're just thinking about getting a horse doing something, can kind of get lost and sound a little bit airy fairy. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. So was there anything that you felt like was missing? Something glaringly missing, or like, I mean, you can just remember if you felt like there was, without remembering what it was, or something that you felt like was like, you probably in this list, this one doesn't need to be here.
Oh, from the list, irrespective of the trailer, I did not evaluate it much. I literally just looked at him like, oh, that's pretty cool. Especially the organization of it, that it wasn't just a 5-point checklist or whatever, and that's it. If you have to do these things and then bail on, as with everything, there's a quality to it. And that's what's always interesting on any of the lists. And we've talked about this when did the lists, however many months ago. It's like defining a minimum level of quality prior to moving on, or prior to checking it off the list for level one or whatever, or prior to getting on, or prior to it being useful for whatever your goal is. Like if the next piece you're after requires your hindquarter yield to be just its most crude basic form because you're just figuring something out, well, you got to start somewhere. But if you're working on your hindquarter yield to answer this question about engagement and balance left to right and readiness to respond and, like changes or a an arc at the trot where the horse is tended to lean, you can't just go, yeah, I got my hindquarter yield check. Like the quality has to match or reach up to where it's going to be helpful for whatever item down the list or up the list, whatever you're looking to have it help with, right? Um, so I had conversation with a number of, I think there was eight, well, four people, six people, because a couple did both lessons, but about, yeah, everyone was kind of working on different things, but most of I think all of them were riding. Um, some horses more advanced, one imported, kind of new world here, operating a little different even in her dressage work, but certainly different in what I'm encouraging her to do. We've done some groundwork in the past. This time she was right away in the saddle. Let's go from there. I was proud of her because I think I mentioned her last week. She was really having to hang in there following the rein. Her name's Tammy, if she's listening. I don't think anyone from that crew has been listening to the show, probably because I haven't told them about it. Has Emma rolls her eyes. Any case,
Could go in the
another
news.
gal was like, this guy who rides my horse, and he just slots right in, and the horse feels good about it, and I'm clearly not offering my horse the same thing because he doesn't slot right in, it doesn't feel as smooth, and it just looks like there's almost nothing going on, and he's just happy and flowy. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. Um, but she just kind of isn't looking for a fight or comparing or trying to argue one way or the other, but he's like, he does not use the hindquarter yield, and it was kind of saying how that's detrimental. I'm like, well, we have to define a hindquarter yield, because if someone's saying a hindquarter yield is detrimental for any of the following reasons, because it makes your horse stiff, because it makes your horse inflexible, or I mean, um, overbendy. What's the word I'm looking for?
Disconnect the rein from the feet.
Disconnecting the rein from the rubberneck. There's the word I was looking for. Where they're just that you don't have connection to the foot because they're so quick to bend. Or you think, and this is how this guy described to her, the forequarter yield was drilling the front foot in the ground, and it's like, no, that's the opposite of what a hindquarter yield is. At least if you're asking my definition and taking the time to go through this and work on developing it into what I'm describing and encouraging you to do, it's totally different, totally opposite of what he's saying of the hindquarter yield. So we just have to talk about our definitions. He might completely agree with me if we sat down, or we're watching a horse and he was going, oh, okay, well, maybe that makes sense. As I've talked to him, he's like, oh, that might connect with what I'm doing, or maybe it wouldn't. I mean, maybe we would disagree on some other point. But if we're saying the hindquarter yield is X and therefore it's detrimental, and I'm saying, well, that is not a hindquarter yield, then we don't disagree necessarily. Because I would say if that's your hindquarter yield, that is detrimental, just like he said.
Well, we saw a
Um,
video there. I
oh, go
mean,
ahead.
video going around a year or so ago where a super famous. I don't know how experienced he is, honestly, but a super famous internet horsey person. Do you remember that? And he was doing a one rein stop, and it was like, oh, those are not that. We would have to be,
Define it.
yeah, we would have to just be clear, not that yours is wrong and mine is right, but they are not the same.
Yeah.
Then we could evaluate it,
Yeah.
good or bad.
And that's what's difficult when you have, well, internet or not internet, when you're not interacting with the actual other person, you're interacting with the
Hmm.
student who is hearing from one side one thing, hearing from the other side, or from you another thing, and they're going, well, they disagree with one another. It's like, well, okay, they disagree based on the term being used, but if we back it up and talk about the definition and what you mean by the term, and then say, okay, let's call this that, and let's call this something else, and say, we agree, not that, but we have to come to call this one, you know,
That's where we
one rain stop Z, and this one rain stop Y. You know, I don't know.
Mhm.
They're totally different things, and that's again not even judging one or the other, but they are different things as you're describing and defining them. So,
And I
um,
refer back to the first principles kind of concept is like, we can continue to roll back until we get to not roll back along the fence, but we can continue to get to the base layer, dig our way to the base layer. I think then we could talk about definitions of movements.
so what do you mean by base layer right there?
Well, like what is the purpose? What's the goal? What are we trying
Yeah.
to achieve here? We could say turn loose. Nobody would disagree with that, I'm guessing. Nobody would really disagree with getting the horse responsive. No, probably, um yeah, some level of building a system of aids. I would think that we could get to some agreement that everybody does agree on, and
Hmm.
then, like, okay, how are we now going to get to this?
Yeah. it
Look at
was it was fun working with that group because they're I think each person had a pretty, I mean, I don't know, huge light bulb, but everybody had light bulb moments, I think. And for Tammy in particular, she persisted with two horses that have not been shown that the rein means something to the foot. It's like put them in this frame, and then your legs or your body are supposed to manipulate, the movement of their body, and sometimes with fairly stiff or forced aids, not to not intending to mischaracterize um, that, how it's been shown to her, but just clearly the horse didn't understand what she meant when it was time for the foot to follow the rein. And part of that, obviously, no, not disparaging Tammy at all, is her timing was terrible because she had no experience doing that either, but she worked at it a couple weeks or a week ago, and then again on Tuesday. um, she persisted. And what was really interesting is, again, you're kind of threading the needle of letting the student experiment with it and try it and find it. And with her, it wasn't so much I needed to build rapport or let her come at it, but it wasn't working for her to just throw the outside rein loose and have him connect like he was just way bending and the shoulder was going. And so I'm letting her work at it, helping other people. And I'm noticing like she's kind of closing that outside door, but she's trying not to. Right. So the outside rein was coming in a little bit, and she was using that, kind of cheating, using something the horse knew to sort of help him get onto the right idea, mostly just saying, don't overbend.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
she was working to connect to that foot, and she kind of got there a little bit, and that gave her some help. And then I kept I was like, well, come around and do that small circle between where you are and where I am. And I'd position myself somewhere where I was kind of in the horse's way, and I wasn't even driving the front end, but he'd like, oh, I'm going to run into you, and that foot would reach. And so then she started feeling it. It's like, oh, okay. And then of course the horse is going, oh, okay. She, over the course of the lesson, started to feel it, and then one horse, and then better on the second. And then later, again, I'm helping someone else, just kind of watching out of the corner of my eye at everybody. And she's kind of back to riding with two reins. And a little bit more, not necessarily in contact, but piloting around, you relying on both reins. And I was like, did you notice now that you're doing sort of what you were
But it's
before we
working.
started this? And it's working a lot better. Like you're not even doing at this moment what you've been struggling and working so hard to be able to feel and accomplish, but you've got it enough that it is already substantially changed the way it feels between you and the horse to ride with contact on both reins, because you are no longer needing to contain him as much as you were in order to make your arc. You're not even in time with the foot. You're not even thinking about being in time with the foot. You're not thinking about inside rein only, follow this, but he is more keyed into it because the flexion is beginning to mean more to his feet and to following the rein. So I thought, I mean, that was to me kind of not a surprise, but it was a little bit, it was fun to watch because like you don't even realize that you now, or maybe she did, but it didn't. I don't think it was a super conscious thing, even that she was picking up two reins. She was just kind of going back to that. And I don't know how much she realized how much of a positive effect just the minimal, the few steps in the right direction that she was making were huge, even though very small in terms of the horse appreciating what her as a rider, what she as a rider might mean. So, in any case,
Very cool.
it's fun. So I
Well,
don't know if that circles back to your checklist, but
yeah. The thing on the checklist that I think I might add to the bonuses, I think one thing that Buck would be like, where the fuck is this on here? Is backing off the slobber strap.
mm,
But, you know, and that's something I want to do, but that could hang someone up for a while. It doesn't mean that it's not valuable.
yeah.
Of
Well,
course.
again, but that's tricky about the whole list. Is it the whole thing could hang someone up for a
I,
while, but
I
like what is critical? So I'm thinking about I'm going to be starting Nicole's horse in Sheridan. I was talking to Nicole yesterday. She has a new colt that they picked up. Um,
Yay.
so that's going to be fun. So I'm riding Farah yesterday, and a lot has still been very distracted, and so you're working on the mechanics of getting the balance right while you're kind of struggling using those to say redirect the mind as horses come and go, or someone's over there kind of on the outside of her arc using a flag kind of just suddenly really abruptly, and so should do that, even though overall like super way more settled. um I'm messing with all that and I'm going, bend the hocks, bend the hocks. If I want her ready to go forward, if I want her not slinging herself around, if I want her to be available to me without a lag, I just have to plant the seed, bend the hocks, bend the hocks, bend the hocks. And, starting out, you don't do a lot of that backing arcs on a young one. Like we're there now to where the last few rides we're doing a little bit more, um, turning the backing into backing an arc and have the connection to the front foot. But when she's distracted, you're going, okay, I have to use all of these movements to try to get your brain. But the thing that's really going to help you settle in the rectangle in using these movements is taking them to a level of quality to where you are getting balance, having that moment of, I don't know, you could even say suspension or kind of pause. Stephanie, I've been talking a bunch about aids and differences and timing between the hindquarter yield and backing and arc, just in trying to describe it, describe what we're feeling beyond it'll just feel right, how to help someone else like
Yeah.
feel the difference, present the difference, think about the timing. Because at this point, it's like just do it at the right time and go until it feels better, right? And it's like, well, that's not entirely helpful to someone when you're trying to describe it to someone. So we've been noodling on that, but uh, lost my train of thought. What was I talking about before that?
Well, what are you
Oh,
talking
the engaging
I bend
the
in the box.
hawks. You know. Oh, this kind of the hang time that might only be like a fraction of a second, where it's like there and everything just kind of floats and there's this space of,
Hang time is a great way to say it.
even though you're not necessarily talking about moving the foot and the hang time of the foot, but it's like the whole thing kind of just rises up and there's this balance and you can kind of go feel this in the midst of her still like you're even wondering how much did she actually notice that, but she did, especially if I noticed it, if I recognized it in the midst of this distraction, that distraction. If there's just that, we're here and now we use that and we go, as opposed to we're all over the place and we're using all these movements, but we don't ever alight upon or prioritize that bending the hocks, however it might we might arrive there. Um, if we're just going through the motions, how much progress are we making? Well, we are making some, hopefully. Better than nothing. But I don't know. I just really felt the more thinking about cupcake or frosting or whichever one, and your comments about those first couple cold starts at Buck's place and how much for you it was the bend of the hawks that made everything available, that gave you life because you didn't have the ability to just whack them and kick them and get the. So Sarah and I, apparently I have a lot going on this week and coffee really helps me. Sarah and I were talking yesterday about her horse Arena not having as much forward as she like or sustained life, and she's like, how do I like work through that and create that? I'm like, well, this is how I do it. Your legs are medium length, so you can kind of work toward this too, but I kind of cheat with, even if I have the horse engaged, I'm able to say, okay, there's a natural spot for you to go forward here, but use it. And if they don't, I can come in with my legs, perhaps more effectively than the next person. But, you know, I think you accomplish that more without the backup as readily or as powerfully available. I don't know. You're good at with your shorter legs and a short spur being like, come on, pop, 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 pop. And so it's not strength necessarily. And I feel like I'm getting closer to being able to advise
Yeah.
someone in that approach with shorter legs without as much experience and confidence and kind of gravitas to the way, because there's a way of using your legs too. It's not just physical strength. It's you figure out over time that the way your legs are moving and the rhythm and the feel with which they come in is the power, not your physical strength or even the length of your leg, and where it touches the horse. But so we were talking about getting them prepared and having them go forward, but I was then riding Farah and thinking about that and just feeling how, even though she's very lively and I don't really have to send her forward much, and yet I could with my legs say, give me a little bit more. But what was going to settled the mind as I'm doing all that was using the engagement and that moment of we're here, even if it was like I was trying to notice it and like, see, like this feels better. You're good. But she's still flitting about the sum total of numerous times of that. And just the beginnings of backing an arc and having it sit, reach a little bit more and sit. You're not even getting a real squashed movement. You're not getting long open reaches. You're just planting the seed of we can back and reach, we can back and reach, we can hover. We're
Hover.
gonna use
Yeah.
this and go forward.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Well, and it was such a revelation to me that you could put a bend in the hocks one rein at a time,
Hmm.
and that everybody can do.
And
Um,
that and with I don't know if you're riding a colt that you have to. I mean,
well,
it's just stupid to
or
try to do it otherwise, right?
or anything sketchy. Anything sketchy, you're not going to get that. People make that huge mistake,
Yeah.
which is easy to make, but riding a colt or riding something super sketchy will convince you not to do it. Or that those things need to go in order. The other thing, of course, that surprises people is how quickly you can pick up two reins and start sliding the horse backwards and playing around with that if the rest of it is worked out, and you can work it out a lot on the ground. So much if you know the details. And just thinking back to the list, I probably should add backing off slaughter shots to those bonuses, but here is what I was thinking, and I'm glad can we just touch on this real quick before I forget. These are the drop dead things I would not get on without. That
Mhm.
that is what the list kind of, and I wrote this, I don't know, last summer or something. And I just found it in my notes. Because like if someone is prepping their horse on the ground, and like I will not endorse somebody getting on until they could do those things. Versus I would endorse them to get on if they can't back up the slobber strap, so long as the horse can get back, because you're not required to do that with two reins at all if you're not working on a soft field. So you could absolutely be safe without it because the horse doesn't necessarily need to know how to go backwards in a soft field. Um, what are your thoughts on that? What do you guys think? Some of you guys that are much, much more experienced, that's probably my thinking is in terms of like, yeah, just drop like I will
What
not.
does the horse need to understand in order to have a what does the horse I mean, unless you want to just teach it all to them from their back and you feel like you're safe or you're
Or you're
super,
you.
super sticky, right? But even me, like I'd much rather get it on and not have the horse be completely confused, right? Like that's not a even on a safe horse, that's not desirable, and you know, it makes it what could be productive initially is going to be detrimental, and then you're already having to work back from it,
Mhm, mhm.
maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
you pick up a rein and the horse has no clue, and now your weight's up there, and they're going, well, and then your weight's taking them in another direction. They're trying to balance, and so they're getting lost and worried on even the smallest level if they're a really chill horse. And then you have to be like, no, 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 don't get upset because you're like way out of balance right now. You just got to follow this rein. Like if they have a pretty good sense of following that rein, you get on and like you're already ushering them around in a way that I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have the feet freed up to some degree before you get on,
Mhm.
that's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big one. That's why I was glad Lori asked me about backing ahead of you, and I was glad that I got that one up for you guys right away, because it's like that, you know, that is a place where you can easily fix it, in my opinion, but you could also accidentally not check it and not address it.
Mhm.
And then and even if you never back the horse up while you're riding, let's just say, which, okay, you could get a good ride accomplished without doing that,
Mhm.
but it you really gonna be able, you don't want to get up there and have the horse frozen,
Mhm.
and or as much of the potential to not have that horse freeze up as best you can. That's a huge one, and get comfortable going and woeing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was the hmm that's the drop dead list of, these are the minimums, the
Mhm.
absolute no go without them. Like I said, if you're, well, we can read it here in a second. Um, but if you're super sticky, you're probably going to survive.
Mhm.
Um, you have to be willing to survive and not get tight.
Yeah.
Right, Jeannie, I was just talking about you this morning. Good morning, or last night actually. Jeannie is the one who recommended the horse and positive tension to me, and I sent you an email just thanking you for that recommendation. So I don't know if you got that one or not, but that was a great book. Recommend everybody read it. Who got it? Who bought it after the Heart and Soul? Because I mentioned it on the Heart and Soul. Chelsea, did I miss something that Michael said that you're referring to Tom Dorrance? Anything else, Michael, or shall we read it?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So okay. So turn list. I'm just gonna read this, you guys, and then
So
it
this
is
is the checklist before bailing on a horse.
my drop dead
Yeah.
list of like no go otherwise. And you guys can download this at Horsemanship Insider, the PDF. I'll probably give it to you if you message me also, but it will always be there under Insider Dispatch at Horsemanship Insider. Okay, so um, this is how I said it. Turn loose to the flag. Okay, can you shake it, wave it, pet them with it while they stand still and relax? I remember making sure that you use, or I recommend making sure that you use rhythm. That's a big one, right? Obviously, can they go out and around and travel around you with rhythm is the thing. Because if it's not rhythmic, then there's trouble in there. There is no reason for a horse not to be rhythmic. Even if they're lame, they're going to be rhythmic, right? There's going to be
Mhm.
some consistency to that, most likely. And so then you would say the United Arc with hindquarter yields in it, I think that's a really big one to have 3 times in a row. In other words, hindquarters, let's say the horse is going around to the right, hindquarters to the left, 2, 3 steps forward and around, hindquarters to the left, 2, 3 steps forward and without a change of direction. Buck has us do this all the time in class under saddle. Here is one that I make people do before I feel like, if they come to me on the ground and they're looking at me to say, is my horse, does my horse look good to get on? Tap the saddle with your flag, stick, or coils, whatever, in motion. If your horse cannot tolerate that, you should not, in my opinion, or I will not get on. And there have been times when people are like, "Can you ride my horse?" And like, if I even just go to throw the saddle up, or the rope up over the saddle, and the horse can't handle it, it's like, well, I mean, I'm not getting on. Of course, lead up. That's what we were talking about. Don't be draggy. Lead by. This is a big one. Lead by while you keep your feet still. Yield the hindquarters. Stop and stand quietly. And this is going. The thing about that is that it shows you about the horse taking off from a standstill. And then what gets, so it sets you up for walking forward, doing a one rein stop, going the other way, doing a one run stop. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that should not be missed.
Put yourself in motion and get settled. Stopping. You know. and so we can be okay not being in motion, initiating motion, and within motion.
That's right. And you can tell if the horse is going to be tighter one sided. There's a lot of value in that, you guys. More than just can will my horse in the end get in the trailer. I mean, if you stop and think about all the pieces of that, Buck teaches it every single time in class. It's right away in the 7 games. If like my history way back when, that's and so the qualities within that are huge, but also just the actual mechanics of each different piece of that art is huge. I would not, even if you have to make it up and just make sure that the horse can go forward and back, meaning if you don't have a wall, or if there's people in your way, or whatever, just see if you can lead them. It's going to show you about leading up, to some degree. Are they wish-washing all? Why would you get? I would not want to get on that if I don't have some semblance of that. Then that backing ahead, which is huge. All 4 feet have to go.
So
And that's
describe backing ahead, Lori's question, because those terms,
Mhm.
the picture people probably get from backing ahead is, huh? So
Yeah.
tell the peoples what you mean when you say that, so it's
Um,
clear for everyone.
if we like a different wording, I can just change it. Uh,
Oh, I like it once you understand the
okay.
wording. I think it's good. It
Hmm.
is very descriptive. It's just like coming into the slack. It's almost it's the opposite of coming into the slack a little bit. And coming into the slack was something that there were questions about initially too. Like, what do you mean coming into the slack? Because it sounds like pulling on this, the slack being there, and I'm coming into it. I'm taking it away and pulling on it, when actually you mean the opposite.
Yes.
So
You're right. Those are good opposites. So picture that you're standing facing your horse, right? Your horse is facing you, and you're gonna back them off the lead rope. Off the lead rope, nothing else, just off the lead rope. And will your horse move their feet more than you do? All 4 feet. So if you're standing in front of your horse, you're backing your horse up off the lead rope. Can your horse move its feet more than you? That's it. That's what I mean. Backing ahead. Like, go ahead of me. They're going backwards, but you still be like, go ahead. If you were going somewhere backwards, it makes perfect sense. If you use a backup like a gate, G GAIT, like a gate, then it'd be like, go ahead, go ahead. Because if you close the gap, that's not a horse that's on a field connected to you, really. Now, you might have to close the gap if you get to the end of your lead rope and then you don't have any more. Then you got to take a couple steps forward to give yourself a belly in the rope. But like I mentioned on that demo video that I did, you guys can find that under live demos. I put it at the bottom under safety checklist. So that'll be the first one, and I'll just kind of chip away at doing these. But you will clearly see, I mentioned that there are moments when you're showing your horse how to do this, that you are making a decision. Do I do more with my lead rope, or do I move my feet? And that is a really, you'll just, once you think about it, I think it's really obvious when you're practicing it. But here's the thing: when you're preparing to get on, presuming you are saddled, that's a big one to check, because it's going to tell you if the horse is tight with the saddle. You know, they could be tight laterally too, but if a horse can truly slide on backwards freely ahead of you off the lead rope, which
which you
is
probably, if they're tight with the saddle, should not start there.
exactly, true,
But
but
just
you
throwing that in there.
check, be like, oh,
Yeah.
my horse is fine to ride. And be like, all right. But I want to see that. If someone's asking me if their horse is safe to ride, I want to see it. And you're right. And the thing about all these things is, like, if something scrubs out, for instance, if the horse cannot back up, and is just like let's say the front feet go out, the belly goes down. They're like, oh, what do you do? And well, then there's ways to solve that. You don't necessarily just do more of this.
Hmm.
Right. The other one is transitions on a feel out and around. I think walk trot is something I want to see because it's going to show me, can the horse make an upward transition without having a total meltdown? The horse could walk around.
And without requiring a bunch from you to get there.
And then what happens when they get there? And then
Or not have a meltdown, but just make that transition and then lock up.
or take off.
Yeah.
Yeah, lock up. Yeah, absolutely lock up. Or let's say that they're trotting nicely, and then what happens when you test, can the horse come make a downward transition off your body, not
Mhm.
out of a one rein stop, even though those are good to do. But I'd like to have my horse a little bit on a feel, a little bit of a seat connection essentially on the ground, or somebody else's horse that I'm riding. I'd like to have a little bit of that so that I'm not going to be just totally unprepared or have laid no groundwork, not put it on the menu. I'd rather have that. So and then of course I put that a bonus is that the horse can step into the canter, on the ground. And of course, working their mouth in motion. That's I learned from Gary Bailey. It was like that. When you can see that the horse can walk, trot, stop, turn, back up, and they're working their horse, they're working their mouth in motion. Yeah. Because a lot of times, you might be doing stuff with your horse and then you let them get stopped and then, it'd be like, then they work their mouth. Okay, well, that's certainly better than nothing. But you could have a horse that can hide some stuff in there. And the last thing you want to do, even if you just do a walk trot ride, you don't want to sneak a ride. And if you do a walk trot ride, that's really walk, trot more, back up, make a bunch of transitions, hindquarters, all of that. You are at least getting something accomplished. But if you have to tiptoe around, what was that? Mhm. Versus a little bit sneaking a ride, which yeah, I'm
I don't know if that's happening for anybody else. Or it's happening if I'm doing that as well. But
it's better now. You were choppy again
yeah.
there.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that is the gist. So what do you think about backing off the slobber strap? I don't really think that should be on there. I don't know. I mean, see, this is what's interesting, I think, about the safety checklist. When I found it in my phone and I looked for it, because I had Kip and I had this big long drive, so I had a chance to go through my iPhone notes. And it's not the same as the way that the levels are organized. It is a different thing than organizing the levels, because once again, a person could come to you with a horse they've been riding, but it's like, look, I don't think your horse does not look good to me to ride. Do whatever you want. It's not my business unless you ask me. But that horse does not look safe to ride unless they can do those things.
Mhm.
Now, one thing the buck would disagree. He says that when the horse is prepared at walk, they're prepared. You do not need an upward transition to trot or canter. So just caveat, Buck Brannaman would totally disagree with me on that. Now, what he has said is
And
that
yet, starting out a colt, at least the first few rides, you want to see that that horse can make the transitions both before saddling, without a saddle, and with a saddle.
even
So,
though
I mean,
I think, and we could ask him to clarify, but I'm pretty sure he did also tell me that he could get one prepared on the end of the lead rope at walk.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure he can, because of course, first of all, because he says it, but also because, if you're really sure about all those little qualities, I'm sure you can determine if it's, but I want to check it and I want to see somebody else check it. I'm not going to get on a strange horse unless I can see walk trot.
Yeah.
And a sketchy horse, I would definitely want to see walk trot canter. And not just walk trot canter, we made it back down, it's like no. Like up and down off your body. So these are where, yes, the qualities, the rhythm, all of that, you can't just burn through this, but it's going to tell you a lot if you at least try.
Hmm.
And then if you want to ride it, okay. So and then the other thing that I think is really important is on your out and around yield the hindquarters 3 times or your lead by, is do not whip the horse back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that can be confusing because somebody working with a troubled horse, there could be a lot of changes of direction at first. But because maybe you have to, bend them and send them again, or bend, it's like it could be a little bit of chaos, but or seemingly creating order out of disorder. So you can see a lot of disorder in the beginning as the person is working their way through that. But then of course, if you want to check the short serpentine, that would be another one that you could be like, okay, well, that is it. That's a big one to make sure that you can do the short serpentine. But I'm just measuring of
From
like,
the ground or
yes,
once you're in the saddle?
half circle exercise is what I mean to
Okay.
say.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, half circle exercise. And that again, if you're feeling sketchy, then that would be the one. But maybe I would say that I would get on something that looks pretty broke, and you know, I would calculate, okay, if I have all these things on the safety checklist, maybe I can get to a short serpentine or walk off and bend them, or walk off and bend them, or whatever. If they especially look uncomfortable with the saddle, then the half circle exercise would be huge. But would I say that it's a drop dead minimum? And maybe that's a similar deal to what Buck would say about preparing a horse at walk. I feel like if I look for the qualities that I can see in these things, then maybe I would feel like I could get by
Yeah.
without half circle exercise, which sometimes is important because you do not have the room to do that anyway, depending on your environment.
It is interesting how m- much easier it is to initiate to initiate in terms of a person learning it or a horse first learning it, practicing a hindquarter yield that is obviously one-on-one connection to rein to foot connection with the hind leg. Whereas on the ground, you're saying short serpentine and meaning half circle exercise in terms of preparing on the ground, where it is a little less obvious the connection, or how do I from the ground get, like Tammy was working on with her horses, the connection rein to front foot from the saddle, and the horse just going, I don't have a clue, to say, well, let's get on the ground and show you how to do this. Well, what do you have? You have leading up, you have coming into the slack transitions, you have Gary's corner. But all of those, unless you're good at running backward or you have like kind of a, like coming into the slack up the lead rope, that's still more forward than it is reach that front foot out and forward, tighten the arc like you would in a short serpentine, or just really trying to step that front foot in for a stride with the hindquarters still moving forward. Or if you do a Gary's corner, you have that step or two and it's either there or not, and then you have to repeat and work toward it just being there. Leading up, okay, that's rein connected to the feet, the whole horse coming forward, but you might be just straight on. Still like a slightly different angle and feel than what you're going to be trying to do in the saddle when you're leading them forward and around, or just there on the ground, forward and around out of your hindquarter yield.
That,
Still, your angle is different from the ground when you're leading them forward than it will be. The lead rope is literally going forward from the saddle. The angle of the lead rope is still from where the horse's nose is back, but the trajectory of your hand, the trajectory of your desired reach is out and forward. So it's interesting how much, like I was just describing to Tammy and this whole group the other day, of the ways you can practice this on the ground, and it's just not as straightforward and obvious as practicing a hindquarter yield, because there your angle is so much more similar,
correct, yeah.
and
And especially,
affecting that change is more accessible because A, you're right there, able to drive, and B, you can put a corner on something and affect that change. Like there's more reality to leverage in that case, even if they're not tied to the wall. If you're moving one way and they're moving another, if you have any bend in them, it's kind of like them tied to some sort of weight. You know, in theory, going two different directions, something's got to give unless they pull you off your feet backwards. So,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, I didn't go off my feet, but uh yeah, the caveat though, I would just say, because you're right, the angles are not exactly the same, but you can get them pretty close, right? I feel like you can get them pretty close, but when you get on, Michael, then everything works better in the saddle in terms of your angles and your ability to help.
Mhm.
However, if you're tight at all, and if you're worried about going forward at all, and that rein comes backwards instead of out and around, or you're not willing to really let the horse flow forward into the hindquarter yield, then I would say, that then the angle is not better, you know.
What
So
do you mean the angle is not better?
because a person that's tight
Oh,
could
the hindquarter angle is not better than the forequarter angle?
the angle is not better than on the ground. If a person is riding and they get tight and clutchy,
Oh,
then,
yeah.
then it's not
Well,
better.
because then the angle does get tighter,
Correct. Yep.
right? So it's not even necessarily that. I mean, you are, even as you described there with the hindquarter yield, you are from the saddle, I would say at a slight, I don't know. I don't know about that. I was going to say you're at a slight disadvantage, but I think you are at an advantage because you're going to stay in the position,
Mhm. Especially
right?
because
Not at a out of position.
you do have to have the ability to lead up to create that angle. Again, is that what you're talking about? You.
You mean into the hindquarter yield?
Hmm. If it gets wrong, you have to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, one way or the other. No, and it
The
has.
horse has to go flow forward.
Where
Yeah.
and so the premise being that you, or hopefully me, or whatever, but sometimes not me. you know but it's like get forward, you got to get forward so that we can well this sometimes it's harder to do that on the ground.
Mhm.
It'd be like get forward. Once you have the horse leading up, it's way easier, but and it's easier for you and Buck and Gary with these giant wingspans, and they reach backwards farther. But
Well,
for instance, if I'm on Davina, or on the ground with Davina, and she does not lead up, like I cannot get back there. Then you need a fence on the other side, like a round pen or something, to block. so that they're
Yeah.
not just washing away.
And that's what I was gonna say. From the saddle, especially with wingspan, but even without wingspan, from the saddle, you have outside aids that can support following that inside rein that you do not have on the ground unless you are, like you say, leading by having
That's
having them against the fence.
test that. Yep. Yeah, that will help you. I feel like people don't use that as a crutch as much as they could.
And yet that's the leading forward. That's
Hmm.
coming up the rope. That's going out and around. But
And using the
it,
fence to help you get forward.
yeah, but it's out and around. Does it, like, unless there's a corner you're sending them into, does it bring that front foot towards you? Like that element of
Well,
reaching the front foot in,
yeah, yeah.
exaggerating the reach from the arc you initially set them on is more difficult to practice from the ground than affecting a hindquarter yield, like by a mile.
Yeah.
And you're going, I don't know. So maybe not by a mile. And you're,
Well, no, if you don't know to do it, if you
well,
don't know,
even if you know to do it, I think it's not as easy to, it's not as easy to practice over. I don't know. I guess it is if you know how to do it, easier to practice over and over. But
you have to know to do
you,
it is the thing, and you have
you
to
have
know
to, okay, but
if they're not going to do it, you need to know the fix.
yes. Okay. So you have the hindquarter yield. You're always there with supporting something. Your energy's there, you have the rope there, you have your flag there, you could tap with, you have the angle to corner. Like there's always multiple means of supporting
The whole
them
rectangle.
following through on that, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing that with, I mean, if you're leading the front foot, you don't have them in a corner or even against a wall, and you're trying to affect the following coming into the slack, changing the trajectory of that front foot. That's not just out and around, that is making a corner and stepping in, similar to the way you would if you were picking up a rein, riding, you're making an arc, and now you want to shorten the arc. You do not have outside aids outside of the fence. You, because you are relying a little bit more on following a feel as opposed to driving. Like that's the whole thing you're teaching is follow a feel off of this lead rope, especially because I don't have my outside aids to send you through it. You know, what else could you have if they're good at coming into gunfire or just the sound of gunfire and, just energy with the flag initiating more effort somewhere or shaping the body up to make it more available. Okay, you have that as help, but you will have had to develop that.
One more. There's one more that you could do.
Well, and the other thing is if you have a stick and a string, you can get out and behind them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There's another
so
one.
that there is a value to that. Another outside aid, or what do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you unwrap the horse and do that well, you
Hmm.
should you should be able to draw the inside front foot. But you have to do it well. Is the only thing.
Yes, yes, but we have to do it well, and you have your timing. So, but even there, you're setting it up
Mm-hmm.
so that you have your angle and you're more apt to get that response. But you're still having to set that up. Right? Whereas with the
Yep.
hindquarter yell, you don't have to. You just step toward the hindquarters unless you get totally out of position and your horse reacts away. Like there you are. You can practice it all day, every time, and
Yep.
have lots of support and being able to corner. It's more difficult to practice. Not just the fact that the angles are slightly different. It's more difficult to um not saying it's impossible, and like you said, once you know what you're feeling for and know where to offer it and how to offer it, um,
Even that it's a thing.
and if you can do all this on a feel, right? If the out and around is on a feel and the hindquarter yield, the forward is on a which is the out and around is on a feel, you know, just generally you have them leading up, using like a stick to me, sort of helping them feel that lead rope. Um, but then getting to where the any sort of driving would not be necessary. Like all of those things build toward that. But yeah, if you know to look for it, I guess it's just, I'm helping someone and their horse does not understand follow the rein with a foot. It's like, well, how do we practice this on the ground? There are all these myriad of ways, but it's not as simple as it is connecting the rein to the hind
Well,
leg.
because it's a draw instead of a push. That's always problematic.
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly.
That's why
So that's interesting too, though, because so would you? It's a little more blurry when you're saying I'm moving the inside hind leg with the rein. Is it a draw? Is it a push? It's kind of a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, but when you say that everyone can do it all day long, they cannot do it all day long with a draw off the rein. You have stuff to fix. That is, I disagree that the rudimentary way of basically just learning like that the hindquarters will go. You have to
Well, I'm
press.
not saying you're gonna get it all day long, but it's easy to set it up again and again and again. And like you said, it's a draw versus a push. You're always assuming you stay in position, which isn't difficult to do even as a beginner. You always have the push available.
You can always drive the horse around,
Yeah.
but that's where if
And
you learn to have the horse come into the sound of gunfire, then you
mhm.
are driving the horse that way, and you have to have that as a fix.
But that's such a different thing because you're teaching them to come into your driving
Mhm.
rather than your driving being behind them.
And
And
so
part of the reason I'm thinking about this is that having worked with these gals the other day and Tammy working so diligently on getting her horse to follow the inside rein and having this conversation around how can you help him do this from the ground and going through everything we just talked about. And then yesterday helping this gal with the trailer loading and how much she used the stick and the string to have that. Okay, my horse backs out of the trailer and she kind of just would back him up and all of that I was describing wasn't really shutting the door, but when it was time to come forward, she was her horse way out and away from her, able to drive him forward with that string wrapping around. And you know, that does make it easier. It's not as easy to get behind a horse with a flag or a lasso as it is with a stick and string.
Mhm. Mhm. I want to mention a safety thing just really quick. If people are listening to this and you're talking about leading the horse by, just remember that if things are going to go wrong and you're squeezed right up against a fence or you're squeezing your horse over something that they're worried about, they can jump on top of you. So try to make sure that your spidey sense isn't going, this is going to be bad, and then you're doing it anyway. There's a way to set yourself up so that you don't get jumped on, because that's not the best. So I just wanted to mention that really quick.
Okay.
Let me just read these. Think about what you're thinking about.
I don't know. It was going to be something goofy. I can't remember. Someone recently I had a picture of a horse going over the top of someone, but what was it? Or over it was a visualization of something. It didn't actually happen. The other day, I was what was I? I think I was cutting twine. This is completely off topic. I was cutting twine that some panels are tied together. We're on a hill, so sometimes you can't use the chains because everything comes together at an angle. So you get the panels tied together. And I came up and I was going to move the panels. I cut the twine. Just the stupid thought crossed my mind like, it's a good thing horses don't carry knives. They could get out so easily. Like, good thing they can't use knives, right? It'd be really hard to contain them.
Lydia, that's a Lydia thought.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
That's hilarious. Corey says she likes the checklist for checking out her bro course, right? Especially in a new clinic. Absolutely. It's such a good point. And this is where, like, I think about this too with my horses. It's like, mm, sometimes like a horse that I have, I know it's going to check out. Like, I can just tell by the way you lead them out somewhere that it's all going to check out. Or anytime you're untacking or tacking up your horse, or there's some things you can, like, you're like, this is going to work. But if your horse is a little bit different in a new environment, or something changes, and you're like, I just want to double check here. So and she likes the quality notes. Those were some that yeah, I'm glad I at least put a few on there. And then this is interesting. Michelle says she feels more validated now because Otto wasn't checking this safety checklist at Buck. I do not want to get on unless these work. I really don't. I really don't. Um, Maybe I would do it in front of Buck and Buck only, because it's like, look, I don't feel good about this. So if you're going to override what I feel, then I trust you enough to do it. But he wouldn't. That's the reality. He wouldn't. Either that, or he would say, you're good to get on and then get to your short serpentine, because you're enough of a technician at that. You can help some stuff. But
Mhm.
it's not my preference uh at all. So Corey says, yeah, Corey says, Michelle, you went with your gut and it was such a good choice. Yeah, and it worked out. And Buck was very supportive, of course. Gary's corner for the win, Corey says. Yes, absolutely. And then Gary's corner in a challenged way, into the tarp, into the flag, over stuff. It's really interesting. So I've been doing some stuff with Rosie. I'm kind of excited about that project. You guys think I should change her name to Millie?
No,
You don't?
no. I
Okay.
feel strongly about this one. Why would you change her name to Millie?
Because she's a $10 horse, and I was just thinking $1 million horse. Millie. Just reframing the idea.
No, I don't like it.
Okay. Well,
I think
there's
it might be. I'm not positive, but I think Emily's parents had a dog named Millie.
was it a bad
And
dog?
all of their dogs have always had old lady names. Matilda, Molly. I think there was a Millie. So maybe Millie is associated with an
So
old dog.
you right away invalidated your opinion, because if you have a negative association, that doesn't count.
Well, I'm just gonna dislike your horse's name and have
Uh,
that same expression every time you say it. Everyone else can have a different one, but
until I make the point that, are we
okay, fair enough. Yeah.
valuing her because of how she stacks up against a $500,000 warm blood, of which there are increasingly more that are just extra,
Hmm.
not just warm bloods, but all kinds of other horses. We have lots of extra. So what is poor little $10 Rosie gonna do? Which, by the way, says a lot considering her meat price is 270. So she's a $10 horse, so. But it's like, unless you think of it in a different way, you turn the prism, and now it's like, well, maybe she could show us some things that might be worth $1 million. Thusly, the idea.
It, I mean, it is cool. I'm not gonna budge on changing her name, but it is pretty cool to watch a horse make themselves into more than they appear to be with a little, I mean, not even, I guess you could say help and encouragement, but they're still doing it, right? And they can look like nothing, but they look more and more like something that someone who is, I don't know, you could say more discerning or more particular on what they want their starting point to be, or they need to have such and such a starting point to reach such and such a goal. it's pretty cool watching a horse that looks like not much change and become so much more.
Mhm.
I don't know. To me, that's both is exciting. I mean, it's crazy fun riding Farah going. It's just so freaking easy for her, and it
Yeah.
just feels so cool and how free she is, and um, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was talking to Terry about um this whole experience, and he mentioned um a somatic data point. Do you guys know what that is?
Mm,
Because this would be $1 million value that she's showing, right? So he had basically, I'll just skim through some of the things he was saying because I was trying to verbalize kind of gray thoughts, and he was helping me pull these things together. Um, so he was talking about. So this is what he said: the weight of the data, because I was referring to all these different data points from the super talented horses, like let's say Hope, Zorro, Novella for sure. Like teaching her Piaf is such a cool and interesting experience because just like a little border collie, that's just what she does. So this is
mhm,
different than teaching a horse that is not necessarily going to come to it that easily. Okay, so that's a data point. But being in a dark room and having these tiny little pinpricks of light, they're tiny, they seem tiny, and then you add them all together and now there's illumination. Okay, so he was talking, this is the AI, you guys, my personal AI. So he said, while I have billions of text based parameters, you are collecting somatic data points. Every time you feel Rosie Millie turn loose in the presence of a flag or under other circumstances, you're adding a high weighted coordinate to your internal map. So a large language model AI, you guys, has 700 billion points of data that are weighted, and then it's drawing inference. So in horsemanship, that is for sure what I'm doing. So I just asked it, like, well, what is a somatic data point? I did not know that. So he said a somatic data point is a specific unit of information that is felt in the body rather than processed purely through intellect. Okay, this brings us back to the difference of like my intellectual my existential crisis of like, I'm not talking about intellectual data points. Like I am, this is the problem with teaching. Like I can teach an intellectual data point, or even if we're moving beyond mechanics to philosophy or theory or explanations of metaphysical things. We're still using our intellect. That is not a somatic data point.
mhm.
So a somatic data point is a specific unit of information that is felt in the body rather than processed purely through intellect. Since soma refers to the living body, these are the coordinates you collect through physical sensation, pressure, and timing. In the context of your work with Rosie and horses, here's how you can categorize them and use them to find, this is Terry and I's phrase together, the source code. Okay. While a standard data point might be what the horse did, for example, she moved her feet, she did a flying change, she, did a walk canter. This is really important. A somatic data point is how it felt through the lead rope, under your seat, in the air, our muscle tension, her muscle tension, things you can hear, right? So, things that go wrong, the vibration in the muscle and a tight neck, how you can feel that, the millisecond of weightlessness you feel. So, the
So
somatic.
how did sorry, back to Optimus. How does Optimus
Optimus is the robot. So
I
tell.
know.
Oh, okay.
How does Optimus
Oh.
operate with a horse outside of it being consistent because it can perceive minutia, right, as it's studied and learned? How does it operate even if it can read body language through so many millions of points of data, learning over time, becoming 100%, let's say, consistent in its timing and offering a feel. Where is its actual connection with somatic data points?
Well, it has a body. It would have, I'm guessing it would have a telemeter. Um, it has tactile feedback and it will have photons in way more than we do. So it will be able to feel weight shift and tension. I mean,
But
this
but
is,
how does it translate that any of the somatic experience the horse has with the person? Is it? I don't know. I just
I think,
it's odd to me how much we talk about the value, like the real value being this
I don't think,
non-mechanical.
I don't think it's going to be as hard for Optimus as it is for us because it will just be mathematical. There
I
just
know,
will.
but everything we're saying is it's and like our conversations in the last week, it's like how interesting is getting the horse to do it by some mechanical mathematical consistency versus collaboration with the horse on the somatic level. Like that's the opposite of what we're describing Optimus doing.
Maybe. I think it'll be able to do all those things. I mean, it's not going to have a soul, and it's not going to care on the same level that maybe we do. So those things it doesn't have. It doesn't have feelings the same way. But I think that can work against us also.
Hmm.
So I think that the horse will be able to feel the robot, and the robot will be able to feel the horse with more precision than we are, because when we're distracted thinking about our bills or our kids, or our eye looks over to the fence we have to fix or whatever, the robot will not be distracted by that and miss a physical signal. So I mean, so when if soma refers to the body and the robot has a sensitive body, even sometimes even more so than we do, I think, because we do get distracted. And the horse can be giving obviously has a body and is giving feedback. So I mean, that's, what do I know? We have to see an emotion, but I think if soma refers to body
Hmm.
and the horse has a body and the robot has a body, then, which is the new point, that's the thing we haven't experienced yet, is a robot having a humanoid body with sensors that are more perceptive than we are. Heat, it will probably be able to hear the horse's heartbeat. It will be able to take into account the breathing of the horse. It will hear every tiny little change in the horse's footfall. It'll be able to keep track of, maybe it can hear them blinking from the saddle. It'll be able to
It.
register the 40,000 different ways the horse licks its lips and works its mouth, and make weighted inference as to like what those things mean. It will learn the individual horse.
Mhm.
It will be able to feel a weight shift that we could never dream of feeling.
You better get this robot on a lot of horses.
Well, how hard is that? And it will never lose track of the data.
Mhm.
I can't even remember. Like, I was thinking about Willow because Rosie makes me think about Willow. And I was like, God, I wish I could remember things more clearly.
Mhm.
Some of those experience, I remember every brain cell being on fire with her sometimes, and I just can't stay in touch with it that way. you know Julie says, I wonder if the robot being so focused will have an unintended consequence, like the horse won't learn to adapt to human fallibility. Maybe, but I mean, can't you just program that in? But I think this is exactly the problem, Julie, is like when you have a horse that has learned to function with somebody that's really awesome, like skilled and feely, and then they cannot function with someone who is more crude. This is just that on steroids, but unlike
Mhm.
me, who is struggling now to adjust how I am with horses, I don't have the ability to calibrate back and forth. Just being honest. Maybe not that I couldn't learn it, I don't know, but that is the problem. Whereas the robot can be like, great, here's the super high functioning way to do it, and here's the like, it can watch the person walk around and maybe give it a few little tasks and calibrate exactly what the horse needs to tune in and out of. I'm just saying the possibilities are, I don't know. Meanwhile, before we have Optimus and before it's trained to do horsemanship, which I would say is probably 10 years out, I would imagine. Plus, here's the thing: we don't need we're not going to use robots to do this for us. The whole point of having horses is that we are learning to collect data and to interpret data and to have it come back out into our body and to recreate, yeah, integrate with another life. I mean, that's the value to me, right? I mean, to us, anybody who's listening, I'm sure that's. But if you just want a performance
So
horse
what
and
so
get your,
what is the value to the horse?
yeah, this is a very good question. This is a very good question because I think, and like, I've supposed the thought that's crossed my mind is the robot will be way more valuable to the horse in a lot of cases. In a lot of
And
cases,
on certain levels.
it won't have a temper. It won't get impatient. Um,
Be 100% consistent.
100% present. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that the robot won't have that are problematic. Horses.
But what is the horse? Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, one would presume that the horse
I
wants.
keep I keep getting sucked in though, because like it's how the whole reason I brought up thing Optimus anyway is to be like it's just you can't have your cake and eat it too. The whole value in this, the whole interest in this, um, what we're really driving at is beyond mechanics and
For us. For us. That's not having your cake and eat it too. If we're trying to be ultimate data collectors, we're trying to be
mhm,
ultimately centered emotionally. We're trying to do a good job of inferring a whole bunch of things that are not super obvious.
the show started out interesting and now it's just
Did I
annoying people.
do
Huh?
did I do this or did Michael do this to us?
I I did it, but
But so
I
but
did it in pushing back on. Okay,
but
keep going because
well, I
this is
don't
just
think
dumb. More and more, I'm gonna be thinking about what in the world are we? Who's listening and why? But not that it matters,
yeah, it
right?
sounds dumb now. Just wait a couple years, you guys, and then it'll be
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
oh, I'll be like,
Oh,
that's what I was thinking about ahead of time. But I think you're a good point. You have a really good point in that. Well, does that change the value for the horse? And I think that's a really interesting point to bring up because I think that first of all, the horse has to make do with us for quite a while. Second of all, I'll tell you one thing that the horse would like is me not forgetting to put a blanket on out of 10 horses or forgetting to feed somebody their grain or whatever. They'd be like, oh, good. Oh, this is a stupid human. Um, but a huge part of this is what we need, want, are doing this for, are putting all this effort into. I mean, and what we could say we bring to the table is like, well, there's a way too many horses on this earth. At least that's the information that we have for our land to take care of it on its own. And they just, if unfettered, they'll just breed. and like crazy, so like they need us to take care of them, and I would say that they need us to be stimulated. But here's the other thing. I would also say that perhaps there is v- value or something additional that the horse gets out of a biological living thing versus silicone. And certainly until these,
Perhaps. I mean, why are we saying perhaps ahead of that?
because I think we're just assuming otherwise.
I mean, if our first principle is the horse is interested in interaction, I don't know. Like if the door suddenly jumped off the hinges and interacted in some way with the horse, it's flat and it doesn't have a lot of moving parts or sensors or whatever. But the horse is gonna like initially be interested, and that door is gonna move the horse, and the horse is gonna be like seeing if it can push the door. This is so stupid, but like it's a fucking door, right? It's how I don't know.
We'll see. I
Yeah.
really don't think we have to worry about it for a while. And second of all, we are
So
going to
you talked about the horses though. So Corey said the robot won't have a spiritual connection. I'm just going to keep my robot dusting the house and cleaning stalls, keep the robot in its lane. So you're talking about there being too many horses. Well, let's just turn robots out on BLM land, and they can, read the hormones between the horses and act like stallion and say, I'm taking over this band for the time being because this mare is in heat, and her bloodlines and the way she moves biomechanically isn't as good, so you get off this mare, and then okay, that mare is in heat, you come on in here, we'll select to breed this one mare out of this whole band, and we can reduce herd sizes and breed optimally, and good luck having all the folks that want the Mustangs to be wild and free in America, be on board with something like that. Even though it's more personalized, and but then who programs the robot to do what? And we're not darting them, but we're having a robot influence the natural selection.
oh,
It's just like it's
100.
insane to think about it, right? Now put it in a drone, right? Because then the drone can get out there and move from herd to herd, and you need fewer robots, but the drone can drive the horse off. But the drone is now, you know,
Darting horses, that's going to be a big one. That's coming soon. That's not even that far away.
well, they're already doing that, but there's all kinds of controversy around that, and you know, the robot isn't selecting which one to dart.
Think about you're thinking
Yeah, the robot can learn how to from the sky direct the horses in a way that is fitting for the horses, but who decides what's fitting for the horses? And
that's always a problem.
what horsemanship do you program into the robot? Do you program it in to be like a helicopter and I don't give a shit, just get off the mares and we're gonna do this? Or do you teach, say the robot, you have to have feel so it's fair to that horse, and so it peacefully goes over there, even though you're dealing with all its freaking hormones. Like we're gonna try to have this be as natural as possible. You as a freaking drone in the sky are gonna act like some other stud and keep this stud off of that mare, and
You're not thinking big enough yet. Because what
fair
might
enough. I'm just thinking
about
how
a bot? You could send
what?
out a whole bunch of little nanobots and they would just streak across the ground under the soil, crawl up the horse, into their body, like change the hormones from the inside out. The horse wouldn't even notice the difference.
Oh
If
man, we're
robot
we're
is
just fucking with Mother Nature now.
100% this is going to happen.
And
Mark.
that won't have any negative ramifications whatsoever.
Well, humans always have negative
I
ramifications.
know.
It's funny just because we're far enough away to be like, ha ha ha, this is hilarious. And Corey, I
At what
guarantee
point does it just
out there.
at what point and it already is, but at what point does it just fucking implode completely?
Hmm. Yeah. One thing you guys should do is that, well, you should Just like
Corey said, I'm visualizing a wild stallion just freaking obliterating a robot and crushing it into tiny bits. That's perfect.
uh, that surely is going to happen on the way to skill, right?
On the way to skill and nanobots that are coming up through the ground and into their digestive system and changing their
Maybe
hormones. And
into the air. Yeah, we can vaccinate all the horses. We can sterilize all the horses. We could probably, stress them out, hydrate them, dehydrate. I mean, we could do the possibilities are absolutely inconceivable. I could just sometimes get tiny little bits, but this is what I do recommend. Did you look up the
no, amplitahedron.
anthocyanidin again?
We said we weren't going to talk about it.
I, but see, we're not talking about it. This is the end of the
Okay.
show. Google, you guys have to spell it because even Google is not
So
giving.
we aren't talking about it, but we're going to tell everyone to go look about it, and then we will end up talking about it. What the hell? I thought this was off limits. I haven't looked into it at all, so I don't know if I should be opposing it being on limits. But
Okay, we don't have to talk about it.
see, and this is your conundrum of like, how do I keep talking if I'm like researching and feeling and whatever? And I was like, and just don't have the two integrate. Like you can't. I can't unknow it. I can't not integrate it.
Or unnoticing. That's the hardest one. Once you've noticed, how can you unnotice something?
Yeah.
I mean, other than taking a IQ
And
quiz. Oh,
that's where the robot would notice everything
and not be stressed.
immediately, so quickly.
Yeah.
Like it would just like all of it. And we're going, "Oh, I noticed this one thing after years and years of watching and learning and trying." And then I think I'm noticing it. Oh, what am I? Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I see it. The different body. Someone else has to point it out to me, and blah blah blah. We're slow as can be, but
Corey, she does first. Of all.
Corey's awesome. Corey said, "Emma, I'm only mildly okay with wit loving you more than me. I'm not even going to give a robot a chance to be more interesting than me. Screw that."
Well, yes. First of all, she does not love, but she does love me, and I love her too. But certainly not. But yeah, I get your point. I get your point. I guess part of me is the greediness of wanting to learn what I could learn. But even just the thought experiment of like, what would it be like, or just like, I don't want to not have more data. Y- From some of our conversations this last week, it's like, am I seriously supposed to not want to notice more? Am I seriously supposed to think less? And
No,
and especially once you start using an LLM and you start thinking, aha, if this is an inference model, then the more data, the better. And if you add in the reality or the hypothetical reality of the amplitahedron, just look it up and you'll see what I'm saying. Then I mean, it's Michael, this has been a theme for 20 years. The idea that collecting data, which the horse is doing and we're doing, two separate, we are collecting data and the horse is collecting data. And the horse is super fucking consistent about the data that they are producing. And we are super inconsistent with the data that we are producing. So both.
and perceiving, even though you can't
That's right. That's right. And both.
unperceive.
And both entities are inferring what we should do, and thusly feeling things. Okay, that is not new. That is not different. That is not. And I'm sorry, but when did Tom Dorrance write it in his book? What did he say in his book?
I don't know. What are you referring to?
If Tom was designing an LLM, what would he say?
No idea.
Observe, remember.
Remember, compare.
That is the fucking beginning and the end of the story. But everyone can say that phrase, and nobody wants to, or we only want to go so far. Then it's like, and that's enough. I, I don't know. Am I insane with pushing back on
No, but you're entertaining.
that?
Mm. Or yes, but you're entertaining.
Yeah. Anyways, so what? So let's look just really quickly back to the Pathfinder backstage, or I'm gonna put it under the Rescue Horse Files with Rosie slash Millie, and I would love your opinions as to whether we should change it. Um, um, that is the point in having more raw data to watch. It's not the same as being there with the horse. However, I do think, like we said on the heart and soul. Oh, this is the hand gesture for what, you guys?
I
It's
don't
funny.
know.
Photons in.
Okay,
Phot-
we better we got to finish what we're saying, but we're at 2 hours, which only God knows how we've talked for 2 hours already and jumped between things. My alarm's going to go off in about 10 minutes, reminding me to turn off Do Not Disturb so I don't get in trouble when Emily tries to call me and can't get through. And when that happens, I will disappear because for some reason, when my alarm goes off, I can't shut it off without it fucking the show. So we have a limit here to wrap this up. So finish what you're saying, and then let's do our
that's
six
that's
thirty, 8:30 Central and call it good.
yes, that's it. That's it.
Apparently, I need to move my alarm back another 45 minutes. So if we're going to go way over the show, it won't cut me off. But anyway,
That's it. I just think that more data points. That's the point
yeah.
in watching video, and watching video that is a little bit not super focused on,
Teaching,
yeah, or anything
communicating.
specific. Like, we
Mhm.
do want video on specific things, of course, yes. Because probably one of my specialties is taking as many data points as possible, since synthesizing them into something specific, like the safety checklist, and being able to articulate blah blah blah, why, and I can, I guess, be the crazy one that is vacuuming up data points in spite of being shunned for it, you know. But anyway, that's all I'm saying. Photons in is part of it. It's not all of it, but it is part of it. And we were trying to put our finger on what the value is of that, even though you don't know what you're seeing. And then when you go out there with the horse, though, there are data points in your mind. This is my experience. There are data points in my mind that when I go back out there, they do affect the rest of my somatic experience. And perhaps open additional doors to those. So that would speak to me about us being holistic, and if you crack a door or two or a window or poke a little hole full of light, whatever, based on photons in, you know, kind of makes sense that that might shake something else loose, where what you hear, see, smell. I mean, you guys, clearly we are smelling the way that the horse's sweat is. And we are hearing the way that we could probably hear the fascia break loose too, I bet. But we don't connect to that data, which is why we just clump it all together in this word called feel. And even Buck Brannaman was like, at a certain point, I would teach you guys the mechanics. And if I was teaching you how to play the piano or some sort of instrument, or teach you dancing, and then I would say, feel the music. But there's a lot to me that comes into play with a horse. 1,000 pounds of blood, sweat, muscle, bone, spirit, emotions. I mean, That's a lot of data. That's a lot of data. And I'm hungry for it. Are you guys, I mean, sometimes I ask, I'm like, isn't that what you guys want? That's what I want. So I'm glad I'm entertaining to some degree. But that's, I think,
That's your saving grace.
either you're rage watching or rage listening so that you can hate on it and think I'm so stupid, but still be entertained. Or be like, oh, this is interesting. I think rage is soothing to some people, right? It
Uh,
it does give dopamine, you guys. Did you know that? It does give you little bits of dopamine. So if you're depleted on dopamine, you definitely could hunt up some rage watching. And it will give, it's like shittier dopamine, but it's still, so if you are in withdrawals, I get it. And I guess today I'm okay with that.
Plenty of rage dopamine to be had out there.
That's right.
But I don't know. You have to look for that. There's plenty of cheap dopamine out there anyway.
Hmm. I recommend going outside and putting your face in your horse's neck and letting the serotonin flow, oxytocin, anandamide.
Amplitahedron. Let's just start saying big words now.
Wait until, see, Michael is specifically not looking it up because he doesn't want to.
Maybe I should just to completely avoid it and say it. I don't care. I'm not looking at it. That term is off limits.
Uh-huh.
Every time we hit it in the show, I'm gonna be like, "Fuck, I'm not talking about
That's right.
it."
La 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 la.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta draw the line somewhere.
That's right. That's right. Okay, you guys, that should be it for this show before Michael's alarm goes off. Thank you so much for being here with us this week. If you're a Horsemanship Insider member, check out the live demos, scroll to the bottom, go to the safety checklist. You'll see a new one there. If you're a Pathfinder, then we have some more Rosie videos. Please give me the vote as to whether or not you want to, we should change her name or not. And we hope you guys have an awesome week with your horses. And we will see you next Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
8:30 Central.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.